Hi, so we've been invited out by ZeniMax Online to check out their awesome new upcoming MMO, Elder Scrolls Online, and me and Sips were so excited to see it. Unfortunately, Sips got snowed in quite badly. He couldn't make it. He was devastated. So it's just me and the Turpster. Do you want to get yourself?
I can't really, but
Oh, well, you can't.
Let's try it.
Let's do it.
Hello.
So, what is the Elder Scrolls Online? Well, put simply, it's a massively multiplayer game based on the continent of Tamriel. Players of Skyrim should recognise the races, locations, themes, and the style of the game very much stays true to the previous single-player game experiences. So, is it just Skyrim that I can play with a friend? Well, the answer is no, not quite. I mean, you can't just take Skyrim, a game designed to work for one player, and have it work for 200 or more in the same area at the same time. What you can do though is come as close as possible, and while playing it was very evident that this was one of the key goals they had in mind. So, a few details on the game for you guys, and it's an MMO like many other you already know. There are 3 factions, 9 races, and a bunch of other cool features that take what works in the genre already, what people want to see from other Elder Scrolls games, and mixes those with evolutions exclusive to the Elder Scrolls Online. So, the story. Well, it's a time of strife and unrest. Armies of revenants and dark spirits manifest in every corner of Tamriel. Winters grow colder and crops fail. Mystics are plagued by nightmares and portents of doom. Something dark is coming, and that dark something is Molag Bal. So Molag Bal is the Daedric prince of domination and slavery. Now he cannot enter Tamriel. So instead of moving to the mountain, he's moving the mountain to him. And how's he doing that? Well, he's using dark anchors. Now, dark anchors are these giant anchors that plunge through portals from his home plane of Cold Harbor and latch themselves on to the continent of Tamriel, and using giant chains attached to them, attempt to pull the very land itself through those portals and back into Cold Harbor. And that's bad news for us. So the game starts with you visiting Cold Harbor when something goes very, very badly for you, but for spoilers' sake, that's all I'm going to say for the time being. From there you embark on an epic journey through quests and dungeons to resolve the conflict with Molag Bal. So, okay, it's standard epic quest to save the world MMO. And that's the story, so now let's talk about the 3 factions. It's pretty simple really. There are 3 factions with 3 races belonging to each, and they're at each other's throats. That's right, they want blood. So first up we have the Aldmeri Dominion. High Elves, Wood Elves, and Khajiit form this group under the leadership of the High Elf Queen, Aeren. Second you have the Daggerfall Covenant, and this is a group of Bretons, Red Guard, and Orcs, ruled over by the High King Emmerich. And finally, my favourite, the Ebonheart Pact. Now this is an unlikely alliance of Nord, Dark Elves, and Argonians, led by Joran, Nord High King of the Great Moot. PvP is a large part of the game, and the AVA, which stands for Alliance versus Alliance, style PvP these 3 engage in, is heated and intense. The 3 alliances fight over the central territory of Cyrodiil, that's right, Cyrodiil from Oblivion. And there you can capture, claim, defend keeps using an array of siege weaponry, disrupt enemy supply lines, and go toe-to-toe with the other 2 factions in large-scale PvP battles. We managed to get a whole 4 hours to play the game, and once we were done, we caught up with Maria Aliprando, gameplay designer for Creature Combat, to find out a little bit more about the beasties we'll be going up against. Some of the cool stuff we were shown today was synergy. Now, synergy is where 2 characters, players or monsters, can combine an ability and, in effect, augment it to be something much more than it was originally when it was cast. So, can you tell us about how that works with the monsters you'll be fighting in the game?
Sure, of course. As monsters engage in combat and figure out how many players they're fighting, what kind of players they're fighting, if the player is ranged, melee, if they're doing bow and arrow or they're healing somebody. They'll do different things depending on the scenario. So a great example is if a fire mage is standing around with a foot soldier, the foot soldier can actually put down a pool of sticky oil that by itself is hard to move in, and so you want to get out of it, but then the fire mage will light it on fire, making it, of course, an inferno of death that you don't want to be in.
No.
Another great example with the wolves is depending on how many wolves are in a pack while they're attacking you, they'll do different things. They'll try and surround you. One wolf will bite at your heels, trying to keep you still while the others are circling around you. They might actually call for more pack members to come in and help with the fight. Another great example that we have, which is prevalent over the entire game, is something that we like to call factional synergies. So while we have plenty of different monsters and they all display their different behaviors in conquering the challenges that they present, not only give you loot and experience and finesse points, but they teach you different mechanics that you might see in PvP. But with factional synergies, we might be able to pick a group of monsters and say, all right, these monsters are part of a necromantic cult, and cultists can do something special that that monster would not be able to do if it were not part of a cult. So a great example is necromancers will actually sacrifice themselves through sacrificial rituals to be able to summon a soul-shriven monster, which is something much more powerful than themselves. The player can either choose to stop the synergy and prevent the ritual from even taking place, the guy will just kill himself and you'll get all the experience for killing him, which is really fun to do. Or you might not stop it and you'll have the challenge of having to fight that extra monster in the pool, making it much more complicated. But you would only see that if you were fighting cultists. So you might be fighting a cultist that's a fire mage, and you might be fighting a bandit that's a fire mage, but you'll never see the two because they're part of a factional synergy.
Oh, right, I see. So as part of the creature design, how much input have you had on the bosses of, say, instances and the heroic dungeons at the end?
So all of the bosses are variants of what the creature you actually see in the world is, and they take what the monster normally does in overland instances, what wolves do, what titans do, what giants do, and they augment that in dungeons. So the dungeon team is really good with talking back and forth, and sometimes we take ideas from each other where they'll start doing a monster and they'll say, hey, we've got this great mechanic in a dungeon, but we want to teach it to the player so they're prepared to see this overworld, and we can take that ability and augment it in a way that a single player could take it on. So what you might see in a dungeon is really similar to overworld. They don't change any of the essential rules of combat. It's not like the numbers change on you all of a sudden or anything like that. We also have a lot of monsters in the overworld, which we call overworld anything that's not an instance dungeon, that are solo monsters on their own. So normally when you fight a bunch of guys together, but we have monsters like giants and mammoths and a brand new Daedra that we have concept art on our website for is called a Titan, which is a giant winged demon creature that is a servant of Molag Bal that protects all the souls that he's been capturing and keeping in Cold Harbor. So that fight is a solo fight for a player, and they have to use every resource they have, including possibly potions or getting help from a friend to defeat those. So it's not just you fight the same monsters over and over, but you might come to an epic fight in a normal questing environment that you have to overcome that in a dungeon, of course, that's going to be a one-up in there. So it's really exciting to be able to work with the dungeon team, and we work really closely to make sure that our mechanics are really similar to each other.
Cool. And we've seen the AVA, which is Alliance versus Alliance areas, and those are thick with player combat, but are there any monsters or NPCs in those areas that will attack the players?
Yes, absolutely. The major keeps and major locations in the AVA areas are protected by Faction Alliance NPC players. We actually have factional synergies for them as well. So for example, if you are part of the Daggerfall Covenant, and within your storyline in the actual zoning environments, you'll fight Aldmeri NPCs. Those Aldmeri NPCs will do a synergy together that you'll recognize as Aldmeri. But not only that, it's actually a player ability that we've given to the monsters. So it'll be an ability that you actually see real players doing, and NPCs will act the same ability and same synergy out in the AVA environment as well as in the zoning environment.
That sounds awesome. And we've seen also the anchors that come down from the plane of Cold Harbor, and those are trying to pull the world into Cold Harbor. What kind of monsters and what kind of monsters are present at those anchors, and how are they going to scale with players that go to the anchors to kind of defeat the challenge there?
Right. Well, Mullig Ball has his entire host of Daedra at his disposal to be able to throw at the player, but he's also working with a really famous necromancer named Manamarco. So he has an entire legion of undead at his whim as well. So not only will you be seeing Daedra, the Daedric Titan that I talked about, familiar ones like Clanfear or Winged Twilights or Ogrim, monsters that you've seen in other games. They have a little bit of a Cold Harbor feel to them, but you'll be easily recognizable. We also have lots of monsters that are either necromancers or undead monsters. For example, a giant bone colossus, which is a construct created from many different dead bodies, created together to make one really large monster. So you'll be fighting legions of undead as well as Daedra, and the Mages and Fighters Guild are really encouraging you to go out and kill those. So the Fighters Guild for specifically is encouraging the player to go out, find these dark anchors, and conquer them. And so anytime you kill Daedra and undead, the Fighters Guild will reward you for such things.
Cool. There's an achievement system in the game, and you do get achievements for doing various things. Are there any tied to monsters and killing certain types and such?
We have been talking about that. As we get more into beta, we would love to hear feedback about that. We have had some prototypes, but nothing hard right now. But it's very exciting to be able to put in, and we do want you to go out and be able to seek out all the different types of monsters in the game.
Cool. You mentioned Bateson, and that's something that's coming up soon. Can you tell us a more concrete date for when that begins and how people can kind of get into that?
We've actually started internal betas right now, which players are under NDA, so they're not able to talk about it. We are going to go into a much more open beta by the end of March, and you can actually apply online at our website at Elder Scrolls Online for our beta. We'll be sending out confirmations that we've gotten your email for the beta, and then we'll actually be sending beta invites out later. We'll be having a very small group of people in just to start out with, and then we'll of course be expanding that exponentially as we get into further and further testing throughout the year.
Cool. I wanted to move on to Endgame now, and when you finish, the world's split into three kind of quadrants, three factions, which is quite cool. And once you finish the chain from one faction, now you can go then from, I understand this, to the other regions at your level, and then those regions will be scaled up. So instead of re-rolling an alt that's a different faction to do those zones, you are allowed to do that on your main character, if that's your main, and then experience all those quest zones at a higher challenge. Could you elaborate more on that?
Sure, absolutely. Once you get to the end of your progression for your alliance, for example, if you're a part of the Daggerfall Alliance and you complete the entire zoning area for the Daggerfall Alliance, you'll be able to go to choose one of the other two alliances to go to start on. Once you finish that one, you'll be able to go to the third one that you haven't gone to. While you're in those regions, you will only see other players from your faction that have also completed their original faction zone. So you'll only see Daggerfall players that have finished and completed the Daggerfall areas. And we really encourage you to do that because leveling doesn't just stop at 50, like that's just the number, but the skill system really evolves from there. As you continue to use abilities, you can rank them up and morph them into different things. And so just getting to level 50 is kind of just the beginning. And so going through those different areas not only allows you to explore all of Tamriel and the three different areas that we have for the factions, but allows you to keep continuing with your character, involving your character however you want.
That's one of the very cool things as well, is that the skill system lets you kind of level up weapons as you use them. I played a sorcerer and we played the brief kind of time at the studio, and I picked up an axe and I thought, oh no, I'm a sorcerer. Yeah. What can I do with an axe? But then I equipped it and I thought, hang on a sec, I can still cast spells and kind of cleave fools with this massive two-handed axe. I mean, are there any incentives for you to experiment with weird builds, like be a heavy warrior that uses a bow, or perhaps a wizard staff, or be a mage who wears heavy plate and charges into battle with a two-handed sword? Absolutely.
I love to go half heavy armor and half medium armor sorcerer with a one-handed shield and sword, and it's great in PvP, it's great in dungeons, but being able to go into a dungeon and say, you know what, I'm one-handed sword and shield, and we might get into a scenario where it's like, really, I should either switch to a bow, or what could really be great is if I had a restoration staff and I could start putting out group synergies for my team to be able to complete this one area. So having an identity is really important, and an identity that you can create, and there's so many different things that you can do, but being able to be versatile and actually change that on the fly during combat to be able to do many different things and many different tasks is also important.
Cool, cool. And we saw that there are kind of skill trees along the left. When you level up, you get a point which you can choose to devote into one of many skill trees. You mentioned that there's the Fighters Guild, and the Mages Guild are two of those.
Yes.
Or rather, guilds is one, and then within that there are two trees.
Correct.
Now, the Fighters Guild and the Mages Guild were present in the previous kind of Elder Scrolls games. Are we going to see the Dark Brotherhood at some point, perhaps, or the Thieves Guild?
We, of course, want to be able to present all that you expect from an Elder Scrolls game, but we will not have Dark Brotherhood or Thieves Guild at launch. But we have plans to continue on. Once the game launches, that's really a leaping point for us to be able to bring more things to the players, to evolve the game, how the players think they really want to see it go, be able to create new storylines, because when you play through the Mages Guild and the Fighters Guild, you get a whole complete, it's not just go out and collect books, or go out and kill Daedra, or go out and kill undead. There's an entire storyline for that, and within the storyline, of course, you are granted an entire skill line. So when we add those in, we don't want to just make them simple things. We're really going to be expanding upon everything that we ship with, and that's just the beginning of the game.
Okay, so thanks for watching, and stay tuned, because next time we'll be going into greater detail on the new features and talking about the experience I had playing, and talking to Paul Sage, Creative Director at ZeniMax Online. Don't forget to hit like, favorite and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.